So here we go, the second part of this lecture, questions and answers. And I'm not sure how this will go. Okay, let's see. So the question, do you think that the world economy will achieve net zero CO2 emissions by 2050, 2075? Which according to the most optimistic emission scenarios. Well, I'm more pessimistic. I don't think so. I don't think so. Because there is the Paris Agreement, but there is lots of instability in the world. Okay, so it depends on critical factors, and indeed, one critical factor is the U.S. and how the next election will go in the U.S. Okay, remembering that under Trump, the U.S. withdrew from the Paris Agreement. Okay, on the other hand, there is lots of potential instability and the potential of new wars, okay, conflict in the world, which severely delays the global effort, like the Russian invasion in the Ukraine. You see, and that gives delays, and if you have a delay of 10 years' time, or even 5-year time, that's a dramatic setback. All right, but what do you think? You can be more positive than I am. All right. So why do you think it is important to understand the science of global climate change? Okay. Well, I think that knowledge and understanding is always important because you're not manipulated by others. You can make your own opinion. Okay. And you also, there's a lower risk that you are hysterical about certain features. Okay? If there's sort of alarming messages that everything will die out in the ocean, stuff like that, you are more informed. You can make your own opinion. Okay? On the other hand, I think it's also very important to understand the natural system we are living in. Okay? And only because of all the efforts put into the understanding of that system is it that we know so much about it. And that's quite fascinating to understand how the climate system works and how the ecosystems adjust to changes. All right? So that's why I think it's important. Do you think that the general public understands enough about global climate change? Well, I don't think so. I think it should be featured in the school curriculum, okay, much earlier than we do. So the global climate change topic should be central. Okay, also at universities it should be taught very, very early on. Okay, because it's so important. And because of that lack of in terms of education, that's because the general public does not know enough about it. I don't think it's too difficult to understand. I don't think so. I think it's possible to teach global climate change or the way the climate works and very early on in school. Okay, starting from primary, secondary, school. Okay, so more needs to be done. So now that we know everything about climate change, climate scientists are no longer required, or are they? Well, you just have to think about the recent progress in the understanding. Okay? It was just 10 years ago that there was all of a sudden the global warming slowed down, and the scientists didn't know why. Okay? So every year we learn more about the climate system, and because the climate is rapidly changing, we actually don't fully understand how the dynamics will change. Yeah, we have a general understanding, but we don't know. For example, could it be that there will be superstorms developing? Superstorms, which are the biggest, strongest storms, will there be a change in the dynamics? You know, like there are so many questions that you can ask, and we don't understand much. Okay, we understand the basics, but there are still so many new things that we need to look at. Okay, so I really think that this is rather the time where you should invest more into the climate sciences, because these are dramatic changes, so you need to study what's happening. It's important for each country on Earth, and each country needs to, put resources into that, and several countries do that, But unfortunately, not all countries, but some countries there's more the initiative going into adaptation and so, but not the actual understanding of the physical changes. Okay, well, there's more questions here. What are your own scientific contributions to the climate sciences? Well, I'm an oceanographer, so I study more the oceans, not the climate system as such. But what I did is I study plankton production in the ocean, essentially, so-called upwelling systems. Okay, for example, here in South Australia and along the southern coastline of Australia, we have an important nutrient upwelling system that is an important food source for the southern hemisphere food web. Okay, for example, it's the southern bluefin tuna coming to feed in the eastern Great Australian Bight, and we have blue whales coming in and other whales into that area. And indeed, there's the central question as well. Whether global climate change will have an impact on that system. Will it maybe stop this upwelling of nutrients? And I can tell you that there is no indication of changes in the measurements of the last 20 years. So, and all that stuff is important. What I also did in the last years, I did some studies on the Indian Ocean dipole. Okay, looking at how is it actually generated, how does it start, and the end goal of that type of investigation is to try to improve the forecast of Indian Ocean dipole events, which have an influence on rainfall in Australia and around the Indian Ocean. All right. But, the other contributions, indeed, I teach topics like this, at university level. And that also helps educating students, future PhD students. All right. Alrighty. So what will happen if we don't reach the emission targets by 2050, 2075? Well, I don't want to imagine what happens. I don't really want to. You can look at the projections, summarized in the IPCC assessment, and you can see the average temperature changes that will likely occur, and so, but it's hard to imagine the consequences in terms of what we rather feel, or what's the most dramatic are the extreme events. Okay, and there is the projection that extreme events will increase, both in terms of the number and the intensity. And we don't fully know the details of that, but it's already happening. There are many, many fatalities in certain parts of the world. Okay, one of the probably largest unknown is the sea level rise. We have some estimates, but they are very conservative, and we don't know whether there can be effects that actually accelerate the sea level rise significantly. And we only will learn that as we go into the future. Okay? All right. So what can I personally do to ensure that the world is heading into the right direction in terms of reducing greenhouse gas emissions? So you ask me what you can do. Well, probably the most important part is in democratic systems you have to vote for the right party. Okay? So that the right party influences government decisions, not only nationally, also internationally. On the other hand, being active, supporting climate action groups, that would be something to do. Okay, indeed, you can change your personal habits of how you how do you get to university. If you walk or drive or whatever you do, But it's these larger initiatives are more important. National activities. Do you think that engineering solutions can reverse the global warming trend? Well, no, I'm skeptical. There is no proven technology. There are many suggestions out there, but there are potentially unwanted consequences. You have to be very, very careful. If you manipulate the climate system, well, you don't fully understand what can go wrong. Okay? And so this is, there's nothing really out there that I'm convinced can change, can change the global warming trend. Other than stopping at the source, reducing emissions. That's the solution. You can't dream of other solutions. Everything will be fine in the end. I don't trust humans that much. And the other issue is that, well, the oil, gas, and coal companies, they are so deeply rooted in our system. Okay? And it's about economic growth and artificial intelligence driving systems, And so it's actually unlikely that, I'm not sure. I don't think that it's very hard to steer this system into a different direction. Okay? It doesn't address this question, but I personally don't think that that there's any viable suggestion that can reverse the global warming trend. How do you stay positive? Well, it's a tricky question to answer. What I do is, I'm a scientist. I study. So I study new. I have new projects all the time. Okay, I develop I write scientific publications. On the other hand, I try to distract myself. You know, I have kids, spend time with my kids. Nature is a pretty cool thing. Okay, and I do lots of music myself. You know, these type of things. You know, think about yourself. You know, think about yourself, of your what makes you happy. All right, is that all, or is there another one? Okay, it seems you like Animals as Leaders. What other bands are you listening to? Okay, it's well, when I was young, I actually discovered two albums at my uncle's place. That was in the 70s. One was Led Zeppelin, the other one was Slade. You know, the probably heard of them. Okay, that was sort of my early influences, and then came Status Quo and AC/DC. It was very big, but when in my teens I became heavily influenced by punk rock. You know, because I grew up in northern Germany near Hamburg, and they were pretty much heavily influenced from the UK. So, and then I loved all these early punk bands, you know, from England. Okay, so nowadays, yeah, what do I like nowadays? Heavy stuff, you know, heavy stuff, really heavy stuff. North Lane, Machine Head, I really love. Bleed from Within. You can look up all these fantastic Polaris. Okay, my favorite over on longer time scale was always Tom Waits, you know, and also listening to jazz and stuff like that. Anyway, so I hope that gives you a little bit of a clue. So stay positive, and thanks for watching this lecture series. I hope that it gave you some new ideas.